everybody, this is CB Smallwood, and welcome to the place where we talk about all things comics, sci-fi, horror, fantasy, and pulp culture, and everything in between, and that is, of course, mental junk food. And today we're going to be talking about two little tidbits of information I've just picked up on, and I wanted to share it with you, and it relates to the 28 Years Later franchise. It's going to be 3 movies of the 28 universe. So with that said, let's go ahead and get into it. I always like to give credit where credit is due. This article comes from Inverse.com, and the headline reads, 28 Years Later is taking the franchise in an intriguing new direction. And it says years go by quick. And it's written by Levy Scott. And just so you know, I'm really good at butchering people's names. Apologies ahead of time. It's been decades since Danny Boyle and Alex Garland redefined the zombie genre with 28 Days Later, but they're gearing up again to try again with the duo have reteamed in the helm a sequel trilogy with the franchise's original star Cillian Murphy. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right now. Cillian Murphy, reprising his role as a zombie apocalypse survivor, which some people will argue that this is not a zombie apocalypse series of films. I kind of feel like in some ways it is, but they're not undead. They're just sick people that are extremely violent. Aaron Taylor Johnson, Jodie Comer, and Ralph Fiennes will co-star in the 28 Years Later trilogy, and the first 2 installments are well underway. Now, this is where it gets interesting, okay? This is the first little tidbit that I thought was pretty good. In a recent interview with IndieWire, Fiennes confirmed that 2 of the 3 films have already been shot. Boyle himself directed 28 Years Later, which is the first film of the trilogy, while Marvel alum Nia DaCosta helmed its follow-up. And this, pay attention, this is the good little juicy, tantalizing bit. It's tentatively titled 28 Years Later Part 2, The Bone Temple. God, that is crazy. 28 Years Later, Part 2, The Bone Temple. So the first of the trilogy is just going to be called, as far as I know, 28 Years Later. And then the second one is 28 Years Later, Part 2, The Bone Temple. And then who knows what the third one's called. So let's read on. Specific details about the trilogy have been locked down tight. But Fiennes also teased the plot of the first 2 films in his conversation with IndieWire. All right, so we've covered this before. Let's skip down so we can find the second interesting tidbit. Oh, here it is. Let's highlight this. I think you'll find this interesting. According to Sony chairman Tom Rothman, 28 Years Later is, and I quote, not in any way a literal sequel, unquote. Well, that's crazy. According to Sony chairman Tom Rothman, 28 Years Later is not in any way a literal sequel, which suggests the trilogy could take the franchise in an entirely new direction. Whether that includes a retcon of past events or even a full-on reboot remains to be seen, but the first film in the trilogy is set to hit theaters in June 2025, so official answers could be around the corner. So, that's got me thinking, first of all, the second film, that's not even, we don't know when the second film of the trilogy is going to be released, as far as I know. It's The Bone Temple. The Bone Temple. 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple. With the first one being 28 Years Later. But anyway, kind of rambling a little bit. But not in any way a literal sequel to the first 2 films. Wow, I don't know what to make of that. So is Cillian Murphy? Is his character in this new trilogy for how long it lasts? Is it not the same character? Or I don't know. There's so many different ways to go about it. Anyway, I thought these 2 details were interesting. We now have the title, or the tentative title, for the second of the trilogy, which is 28 Years Later, Part 2, The Bone Temple, and When we also know that not in any way a literal sequel. So this is crazy, crazy times. Before I go, just want to thank everybody for. I always appreciate it when my audience or my friends, I consider you my friends, even though we're not, seeing each other at Thanksgiving. But you know what I mean. But my audience, that when yins point out things to me, and it helps make me better. And I mispronounce Mr. Killian's name. I was saying Cillian. And a few other things. And I like that because I always feel like everybody benefits when you comment down below and you make corrections, because other people can see it and benefit from it too. And every little bit, of critiques helps make me a little bit better. Hopefully, anyway. So I'm still excited about this new 28 years thing going on. They kind of skipped the months, but it is what it is. Are you excited about it? What do you think about these recent developments of these two details? Let me know down in the comment section down below. And as always, this is CB Smallwood saying I will see you in the next video.